Let's jump in today. So this is one of our favorite times each couple of months is to kind of show off what our dev team's been working on, what we've been working on with many of you during the month with feature enhancements. Here's the list today. It's a big list. I think there's over 30 items. I'm going to hit each one briefly, either through a slide or live that's there. But just wanted you to know it's pretty feature rich today. We're going to go through quite a number of smaller feature updates that have been added. Then we're going to share a little bit about what we're working on and give you the chance to ask some questions and make sure that you know that if you want to participate in any of the things that we're working on from a beta perspective, or you would like to provide input on some of these in the initial stage, we'd love to get you into one of our working groups to do that as well. All right, so let's jump in. The first one is nested field types. I'm going to show this in the context of SmartSuite, and I say this on each video that we do each week, but we use our own product to manage every process in our own company. So you're not out there alone just using our product that's there. This is just my favorites that I use each day for each of the processes that I work with and help review in SmartSuite, but you can see that we have quite a number of processes in our company that our entire team is working on. I just added one called Project Management 2 that I just downloaded from a template to show off the feature set that's here, nested due dates. So this is a project plan that I have a due date field that's here, and a due date field shows the start date, the end date, and then if something has been completed, we show it with the green check mark, and we tell you this is demo data, but it's saying, hey, this was completed 724 days prior to the due date, which is just demo data. But if the due date is passed, we show it in red and we show the number of days overdue. This is linked to a status field so that when you actually change the status field to the complete status, it then marks the item as complete for you here, as you just see. In this case, it's showing that it was complete, but it was completed 41 days after the due date. What we've added to that is you can now go into fields to display. Under due date, you'll see a plus sign. And I can now break out those two dates separate if I want to, which I'll do here. So now I'm just going to display each one separate. I displayed them at the end of the list here. So now I have a list of just start dates that's here, but these are editable as well. So I can click into this and actually edit from this perspective that's here one at a time. I can use copy paste. I could use all of our core functions to drag and drop to add values with start dates, end dates that's here. I can do the same thing in the due date field itself that's here. So I could click, in this case, I get both dates. So I can set the start date and the end date together. But if for some reason you want to just do that individually, this nested field type now is available here. And this could be added to any of our view types. So I'm showing grid here, but you can put it in card, Kanban, whatever, wherever you select that you want to display information. This is a small one, but I use this a lot just in the way that we manage projects, and that I just want to see due dates and be able to change things very quickly along the way. The second one is we do the same thing for lookup fields. I'll just show this here without going in live to the product. But let's say that you have a lookup now back to an address field in SmartSuite. A lookup field allows you to look into tables outside of the table that you're in to pull in specific field values. So what we've done is we've enhanced any of our what we call our array types of fields, which include our address and full name type field types. So if you pull in an address, what we're showing here is you don't have to show the full address. You could say, I just want the city, the country, the zip code, break them all out individually or show them all together. On full name, you could break out the first name, middle name, last name, if you want to see things that way. So it just makes things super easy for you to be able to get the exact reporting that you want using that type of field type. We've enhanced quite a number of field types with how you can now pull data out, how you can export data. So I'm going to go into a record here in task and project management. Notice that, let's go down to, make sure I've got the right field type here. I want to change this to a smart doc so I could show things off. So you notice now on any smart doc that you have, smart doc allows you to go in and use capabilities to create things just like you would in a Google Doc, a Notion, a Coda. You can get very detailed on the type of information. We also have the ability to have advanced features where you can have AI help write the content and review the content. You can mention people, teams, link to records, insert videos, attachments, code blocks, checklists, add tables of contents. There's anything you can do in a doc. You can now come into that individual field type and say export to PDF. And we give you the ability to export just this content, not the entire record, but just this content that is here. We do the same thing for linked record field types, which is pretty common. So I'm going to go into a different record. Let me try to find sorry about that, a good representation here of a linked record. Next one is checklists. So I can show you, we do the same thing for checklists that are here as well. So I can export this and linked records. If I was displaying this more as a table, just change the display type here. So I'd say, hey, I want to look at this as a table display. I can go in and now export just the content of this table that I see here to PDF. So it just makes things simpler for you if you're just trying to pull specific information. You can always come up here to the record itself and export in lots of different formats as well to get all the content, but this allows you to get very specific for some of the more complex field types that are there. We've updated our email field type. So I'm going to go into staffing that's here. I'm going to click on a user, go in, and you can see here we have contact information with an email. For those of you that don't know, you can click here and click modify field settings to modify any field that's on this page. A pro tip, you can just hover over the field name, double click and pull that up. So if you're a power user, that's what I use quite often. And you'll see that we've added a new capability to require entries of emails to be unique. So this is a request that comes from a lot of people using CRMs, and they want to make sure they don't have the same contact in multiple times. So if you want to stop that from happening, you can do that very easy here. But we also have the ability in automations that I'm going to show you in a minute to merge records, which allows you to find those things that may have happened based on the email field and auto merge all those records into a single record as well. That's it. All right, so let's talk about formulas. Lots of fun stuff here. The first one I'm just going to show here as a slide, but now we have the ability to look into related records with a get list function that allows you then to pull data out of that list that's there. And we've got lots of help text and things to give you the details that's on here, but this just shows you the context of I want to do an array join with a get list, and I want to link to orders that have a status that equals shipped. I then want to sort that by order ID. And for each of those order IDs, I want to pull that by order ID, and then I want to sort by order ID in descending order that's there. So for you power users, this is super powerful, allows you to get to data, do some really unique calculations that are here. The second one here, which is very highly requested and is the first step forward to us allowing true timesheet type activity in SmartSuite, is we've updated and provided a formula function to look back into our time tracking log field type. So those of you that don't know what time tracking is all about, time tracking allows you to, let's go into task here, allows you to track time on particular elements. And you can see here, I've got a time tracking field type. I can click on this. I can see the time that's been entered. If there were multiple people, it would show each of the people and the amount of time that's here. And then I can break down my time and I could actually see each of the entries over a period of time that totals up for just me that's here. I can also determine if I want to auto track time or if I want to put in manual time that's in here. So I could just add time, or I could turn on the timer as I'm working and it just tracks time for me as I'm going. And once I click off of that, it then puts the time in for me. What this new formula allows you to do is to look into all of that information and then pull out specifically what you might want based on a particular person, based on a time range. You can then, the time goes in seconds. So this last one here of 3600s just converts the seconds to minutes for you. But again, for power users, this is something that allows project managers to get in and pull time by projects based on entries, whether they've been manually or auto entered through the time tracking log field type that's there. All right, so let's look at records next. So we've added quite a number of things at the record level for you, and I'll come back in here. Let's go into projects, click into the record here. The first one is you're able to now add descriptions for sections that are inside, or for each section that you actually add in a record. To be able to get to that, you just click here And you can add a section and then rename it, but now you can click edit. And now I'm in edit mode and I can edit information. There are really good use cases when it makes sense that you need to actually provide more information to somebody for the description that's here. And you'll notice that when you collapse a section, we hide the description, but when you open it, we show the description that's there. So we try to keep the page as clean as we can for you, but give you the flexibility to add descriptions to any of the sections that you've put inside of a record. Next, we have conditional display of sections, which is a huge feature. It just gives you so much power in the context of a record. What that allows you to do, and I don't have a great use case here for this, but let's say that for some reason I didn't want to show deliverables and all the fields that are in deliverables that's here, unless something else was true up above. The most common use case here would be for, I'll give you, it's like a property management company that has both residential and commercial property. It would allow them to come in and say, I only want to show the fields for residential property if they tell me the property type is residential that's here. And then I hide all the sections that include the commercial information. To be able to use this feature, you click on the action menu, you go into page settings, that's here. And need to rearrange my Zoom information. Here we go. I can now go into first section visibility, and now I can go into each one of these and I could put in a rule to say when I want this particular section to be displayed. So if I went into deliverables, it's just every field that is available on this form is available for you to include in a rule. Most common is that you're going to select something like a status or a team or a type. So if I say the type has any of, maybe it's product launch or brand, then that's when this section will actually be displayed. Otherwise, it's going to be hidden for you. So you can use these on every section that you have in here. What it helps you do is just reduce the content, the noise that's here for people that have record sets in the 400, 500, 600 fields inside of a record. You can cut that down to the information that only makes sense at the time for the user to look at. I love it when you break things up by stage and you have sections by stage as you're going through a workflow, and it just makes it very easy to only show the information that needs to be completed by stage that's there. All right, record show height fields. This is another fun one that's here. So you can now go into any record that's here. I'm going to click back here to go into page settings, and I'm going to look at fields. And now I can come in and I can say, in addition to sections and not displaying all the fields in any section, I could also say, hey, there's just fields that I don't want displayed on this form in general. Think of calculations and just things that you typically put in a section at the bottom that says hidden that you need to be able to use. But if I want to turn something off, I just come here to hide field and I turn it off. And you'll also notice that we're smart enough to rearrange the content live as you turn things on and off inside of sections. So we've not just turning them off, we're trying to take the time to actually help you with the display so there's not much that you have to do. This is something that's pretty common to have 4 or 5 fields in a record that are want to be hidden, or you have information for the prior year that's not relevant. But when you do hide a field, it doesn't remove the fields from reporting. So when you still be able to go into fields to display and create reports and get to that field, it just hides the field in the detail when you click into the actual record itself. So you can help keep this just as clean as possible that's there. All right, next up, we've got cover images. This is a fun one. We use this quite a bit. So you can see here, I've got a listing of staff in project management. When I click into a staffing record, what I've done is I've said, hey, can you put the picture of the person up here at the top as well as part of the record? And when I click into that, take me right into the gallery that's there. We have people that are using this for all kinds of things like inventory. So you have a list of different products or inventory items in your company. Let me tell you how it works first. So first you click on the page settings. Again, you go in, you click under settings that's here. You can see that this is the first of many options that are going to start showing up in settings for record cover image. It will then show you any of the files and images field that you actually have inside of the record. And then you just click on that, and now it's smart enough to display the first image that's here In the case of inventory, it allows you to take maybe screenshots of your product inventory that's there, and you know that's something you need to get to easily. So you want to just be able to come into the record, click, open that up, and maybe you have 6 or 7 things to look at. You can do it here without needing to go in and actually find that field that's down here in contact information in this case to be able to pull the data back. We're also seeing people do this with project deliverables that are on a project, just all kinds of fun use cases where you want to pull information up to the top just to make it more visual and then easily get to those files and images with a single click without needing to go into the details of the record each time. Let's move into views. Quite a number of things on views that we've enhanced that are here. So I think most of you probably know, like in January, we released this new capability that allows you to expand and collapse the side panel that we have. My favorite is to keep it collapsed, and when I hover over, it opens, and then I can select the view that I want to see, the data that I want without jumping around. But I can, if I want to keep it open all the time, I just click here and now it's pinned open, and then I can click the pin it close the way I like to see it. So we've added the ability, in January, we added the ability for folders. So you can now go in and add folders and group all of your views by folder. You also have the ability when you mark things as favorite. So if I have projects by size and I mark this as a favorite, it throws it up into my favorites that's here. So it allows each of you to have kind of your own favorites folder for the things that you work on the most that's at the top. But we've extended that even more now in this release. So now I can come in to active projects, and I could go to folder settings, and I have the ability now to control who has access to this folder and all of the views that are inside of it. By default, it's everyone, just like it is today. But now you can click on select members, and we give you 3 options, and these are ands between these 3 options that are here. So I could come in and say, I want Alexi to have access, but I also want anybody that is on the design team to have access, and I want anybody in this particular solution that has a role of full access, editor, or contributor to actually see this folder that's here. So what it allows you to do, and a lot of fun use cases that people are having, is if you have viewers or guests, you want to really limit them to just specific folders to see. You take them away from just at the folder level, and then you create something that's specific just to them. So we have customers that have 200 and 300, 400 different views set up. So the first thing is get them organized into folders. And the second thing is set permissions on folders so that when a user logs in, they don't see 20 folders. They just see the things that are important to them. To summarize on this, because this is a big one, you have the ability to set things at the member, the team, and the role level. And these are ands between these, meaning Alexi and the design team and anyone with full access, editor or contributor would have access in this particular case that's here. All right. Next up, we have dependency fields are now editable in grid view. If I go back, let's say look at projects by type, and let's go into task. So in task, I have set up a dependency field type, which now allows me to track dependencies between tasks and display those inside of a Gantt chart. And this is just the regular field type called dependency, where I can see the number of predecessors and successor tasks. I could click into this currently and see a listing of those that are here to manage. Now I have the ability in fields to display to go into the dependency field type as a nested field type and actually select predecessor and successor, which I've done, and I've displayed those here at the end. So I'll scroll over here. Now, all I've done is I want to actually see the actual records for the predecessors and successors, just like a linked record field that I would have. And I can add and manage those directly from here. So if I wanted to remove this dependency, it's that simple. If I wanted to add a new dependency, I could say add. So it gives you the ability very quickly to add predecessors and successors as linked records. Those of you that are more of the hardcore project managers, you understand the value that this brings with just the ease of use that's here. But you also have all of the existing copy capabilities. So I just copied this and pasted it into this value. So it makes it very easy for me to add content, and then you get all of our other undo, redo functionality associated with these as well. So the difference between these two field types is the base field type will show you the number of predecessors and successors, and you click to drill in to actually see the details of those. This shows you the detail of each of the items directly in the cell. I could change this view type that's here by coming in and saying change view and look at card view, and you'll notice that we show you the same information in card, Kanban. Anywhere that you can display those field types, we display those for you. That's there. All right. We've made a number of updates to charts just to help them feel a little more modern and interesting. That's there. We've removed grid lines in a number of cases to just help them feel a little simpler to digest the information. We've changed the color of the tooltips to white from the black just to make it a little easier on the eyes. We've done things that, like when you have stacked bars, we show you the context of all the items in the stack bar at the same time in the tooltip. Just lots of little things that's there that you'll notice in chart display. And we still have a small list of things that we want to continue. So you'll see some updates next month in this area as well. View descriptions, I failed to mention that here. So for any view type that you have, you now have the ability to add a description. So you can see here, I've added just a small one says listing of all active projects grouped by type. You don't have to have a description that's there. If you want to add or edit a description, you just click to pull this down, and then there's two ways to display the information. I can actually show the actual content below the view name, like I'm doing now, or I could show as a tooltip on the right side. So in this case, I've added a tooltip. When you hover over that, it lets the user see the information that's here. So there's use cases for both of those that are pretty interesting. We have a new feature that's coming here pretty soon as well called breadcrumbs that you'll be able to turn on, which will add another row at the top that will show you the table that you're actually in that's here. And that's setting the stage for some more interesting things that we're going to be doing in the future that's here as well. One feature I want to make sure that people understand is available now is that you have the ability to turn on and off the toolbar that's here. So if you've set up views and this is the way that you want people to consume the information and not change it, there's two ways that you can do that. The first is you can just hide the toolbar, which makes it where they can't go in and manipulate the information that's there. The second is you can lock the view, and want to make sure that everybody understands this is a feature that's been available for quite some time. More people are starting to use it. So I could come into this view and I could lock it. And what this means is that if I make any changes to field display, sort, filter, group in real time here, none of those changes are saved for me or anyone else because it's locked. But if I am a solution manager and I do want to make a change, I could come in here, just unlock it, make the updates, and now the updates apply to everybody. Come back in, change it back to locked that's here. So locked doesn't mean that you can't ever edit it. It just means that, hey, as I'm using this view and this information, as I make changes to maybe the groups or the fields, as I'm maybe working on things in product, I don't want it to affect everyone else that's there. So I have it locked from that perspective. If I do want to make a change, I just need to unlock it at that point. All right, dashboard, some fun stuff coming here. So you now have the ability to go into dashboards in SmartSuite, and you'll have the ability to click here and you can export the dashboard to PDF that's here. And here's an example of that dashboard and the way that it looks when you export to PDF. So it's going to give you the actual representation of the dashboard that's there for you to take and run into a meeting to send to somebody outside that needs to take a look at what's happening right now. There are lots and lots of fun features coming with dashboards that we're going to talk about in the next What's New, but you're going to see some tremendous upgrades on the types of things that you can do and how you can control dashboards. This is just one of the very first ones to happen. Along with that, we've enhanced dashboards so that you now have options up here of view and edit. So when I'm in view mode and I hover over things, I don't get a lot of noise about me moving things if I'm a solution manager or editing. When I turn it into edit mode, you'll notice that I get more options of things I can do to edit. I get the drag and drop capabilities for me to move things around that's here. So the intent here is really for the solution managers that are setting things up, that if you're in view mode, you're just in view mode like any other user, and you can click into items here. You'll see some of the chart updates that I was just talking about with the new way, in case when I hover over a row, I'm actually seeing the breakdown of all the items that are there and in the white instead of the black kinds of background. That's it. All right, comparison widget. So we've added the ability now for all widget types to be able to hover and click to drill in and see the detail associated with the number that you're displaying in a count widget that's there. We're going to continue to enhance this to give you options to export and print the data, to see this in a grid view in addition to this, so you can help analyze information. The intent here is all about understanding the data and helping you present it in ways to make decisions on what you're seeing in real time that's here. So that includes with any place that you can click to drill into something in a dashboard to get to the detail, we'll be enhancing that for you. This is one that's been a request for a while that we have implemented now. It has to do with forms. So if you have an external form that you use, and for those of you that don't know forms, you can set up forms and select fields from a table, and then you can share these forms externally. And as users enter data in the form and actually submit this, it automatically brings the data into projects. In this particular one, it's a project intake form that could be set up for projects for customers to tell you about the type of project that they want, that kind of starts the internal process for you. At the bottom of those forms, there's powered by SmartSuite. And if you are on a paid plan, you can now come into settings and you can remove the SmartSuite branding that's there. So now if I go back to edit form, you'll notice that when they see it, they won't see the powered by SmartSuite that's here. Here I've got a SmartSuite as just a default, but you can control this image area with anything that you want or not have an image at all that's in there as well. All right, PowerSearch. PowerSearch has been updated to now include the ability to search comments. So if I come into PowerSearch and I can click here and I can see a list of, when you first come into PowerSearch, you're saying, hey, here's all the things that you've recently accessed to make it very easy. If you want to get back to that information in a single click, we'll take you right there. Or you can search for content. So if I wanted to search for Elon or a project that's in here, I can now filter the data by records, files, and members, but we added comments. And what that means is as you enter comments into a particular project that's here, it will search through these comments that are here, including email. So if you have went into Communication Center and you've enabled the ability to send emails from here as well, and now when I say I want to send an email that's here, all of this information will be indexed for you to easily search and find that as well. A feature that is coming soon that is actually in testing right now is the ability for you to attach your own personal email that's here. So Outlook is the first part that's done. Google will be done in about a week after we release that. So it allows you to come in, and right now we auto set up an email for you and we send that email from SmartSuite. This will attach to your personal email. And every time you send an email, it will also go in your inbox, but it will be displayed here in the context of the work that you're doing. Any replies to that email come back into the context here as well. And now we're trying to work out how do we best notify you when there are replies to your emails in your inbox that's here. So the easy part is in your notification settings, we will send you a note to say, hey, someone's responded to an email that's here, but some of you have asked for us to make it even more clear to you that you have people that have replied to emails, and we're looking at different options on how to do that right now. We're not too intrusive, but it's just enough that I have things that I need to respond to that's came in. All right, hide show tables, another fun one that's here. So you now have the ability to control the tables that are displayed across the top here for users to actually see. So I could come in here and I could say, for whatever reason, I don't want status reports to show up here. I still want users to be able to add a status report by maybe going into a project, and I have a linked record that says status reports, and then I add my status report from here and say add new status report, but I don't need them to just see all the noise of all the tables that are up here. So this gives you the ability to control what you want to display across the top. For those of you that use junction tables and things for calculations that users don't really need to see for whatever reason, it gives you the ability to hide those. Hiding is just as simple as just clicking on the icon, it's hidden. Adding it back is just as simple as clicking unhide that's in there to show it back. It doesn't have any impact on permissions or how people can get to that data inside of linked records. It only means that it's not displayed across the top here. So you can try to keep this as simple as possible. For enterprise customers, we've added the ability to support multiple domains in SSO config that's there. I won't go into that in too much detail, but if you have a need for that, reach out and we'll explain that to you. And I'm going to end here with just some updates to automations. There's some pretty big updates that are here that you can take advantage of. I'm going to click into automations. I want to create a new automation. I'm going to say when a record is updated, and I want to add an action of update records. So it's saying, hey, what do you want to update here? So I want to add a field, and I'm going to come in and say, I want to update the status that's here. So when you do that, it's now saying, what value do I want? I'm not going to pick a value right now. I just want to show you that you have the ability to have append, replace, and clear depending on the field type value. So this is a status field that's a single select. So I can only replace values, or I could clear the value that I want. Each field type that you select will have its own unique listing of options that are here. So if I pick a date, I can replace or clear. I can append a date to a date field as well. I don't have a multiple select that's here. I don't think that's multiple. Yeah, here you go. Here's a multiple select with request type. So here you see I get all three values because I can append a value versus just replacing a value or clearing all the values that are here. So it gives you just a lot more functionality associated with the updates that you want to make back into existing records that are there. The second part is a delete action. This is something that we've held off for quite some time on making available because it's very powerful and you can make some mistakes with this. But there's definitely use cases where that's needed. So you can now add an action type of delete, and you can come in and set the parameters. You can set up a find, and it's telling you here, hey, I have to set up the find. And once I have found things based on certain conditions, I can perform an action, and that action could be delete. But I caution you that this is super powerful. We do take anything that's deleted and put it in the recycle bin, and you have access to that based on your plan type, the number of days, and you can click restore. Make it easy, but just be very careful with the delete piece. I'm seeing a lot of emojis, our power kind of builders and admins. It's something that they requested for some time. This one here, I'll just show through the screenshot as well, but now you have the ability to add a calculate option to an update record that's here. So for a number field, so I could come in, a common use case for this would be for inventory. So based on some operation, I want to either subtract an item from inventory. Maybe a purchase was just made on an invoice, or I want to add items to inventory if I've made a purchase that's there. So you can do some very simple math calculators. So we got this out first. What will come in the future is the ability to be more complex with our formulas. So you have our formula builder to be able to do some more complex things. But this covers maybe 70, 80% of the use cases with just simple add and subtraction elements. We now support dynamic Slack channels as well. So if I went in and said, hey, I want to send a message to someone in Slack, first thing you do is you pick your account with your credentials. And once it authenticates, you then have the ability to pick either static or dynamic. So static is what we've had currently, where you've picked the actual table that you want or the channel that you want to use. We now have dynamic. So now with dynamic, you can come in and you can pick a value inside of the record. So maybe you have a text field that tells you the channel for this particular customer that you want things to go to. We'll dynamically pick that up based on the automation, and then it will notify in that channel dynamically. So you can have client A going to client A, client B going to client B, client C going to client C automatically, as opposed to what we've had before, which is the static piece that's there. We also now have the ability to use the outputs of a single find and following actions that's there. So if we do a find and now I have actions that I'm adding below that, I can say use the information from the find in this particular action. Again, more of our power users or something they've asked for. This one I talked a little bit about in the last in the what's new that's coming soon that's here. This has been released. This allows you to perform a merge of records inside of to run an automation that actually performs a merge. So let's just click on merge that's here as the action type. So I can say and assume that this is a CRM with a contact list that's here. So the first thing is it's saying is, okay, what fields do you want to actually match that's in here? We give you a list of here of all the field types you can match on. What's most commonly matched on is email address, phone number, or address field. And what that's saying is that if I see that the same record has the same email address, and you can pick and ors here, or the same phone number, or it has to be an and, it has to have both of those the same, then I want to merge all of those records into one record. So assume that they're contact records. What it's doing below is it's saying, okay, how do you want to perform that merge action that's here? Do you want to, and these are each of the fields that you have. So I could say, no, I want to append this value. I want to ignore this value. I want to replace that one, append this one. So you can get very granular on how you want the merge to work. The way that it always works is it merges into the oldest record. So it takes the date that's created, and then it takes all the records after that, and then it merges those into the oldest record for you to preserve all the information that's there. That includes comments, and everything will come merged in associated with that. All right, that takes us through the features. There are a number of other small ones that we'll be notifying you about that I didn't mention today, but that was about 30 quick features. And let me just hit you with some things that are coming that we're working on right now that I know many of you have an interest in. We had hoped by today to have the share dashboard feature available. It's a little more complex than we anticipated. We need another week or so to complete this and have it fully tested. But what this will allow you to do is to take a dashboard that you've created and share it just like you do a grid, a card, a Kanban view that's available now. It will share in a read-only state for you. For enterprise companies, please note that we've also added the ability, if you're on our enterprise or signature plans, for you to control public sharing. So if it's something that you don't want in your account, you now have the ability to remove the public share option if needed that's there. Here are some of the additional larger items. This is by no means the full list of things that the team is working on right now, but in automations will allow you to have a choice fail inside of an automation and then continue to go to the next step. And you'll be able to turn that on. That's there. There's times that's very valid. We're going to have some simple and advanced modes for update record where you can just watch fields and help you better understand how updates work. So you're not doing unnecessarily updates or creating things to happen that you're not anticipating when you're just wanting to do simple updates based on things. In Communication Center, I spoke about personal email for both Outlook and Google. Outlook is the first one that's being released, and a week after that, Google will come. That's there. For enterprise accounts, we now have the ability to do IP address restrictions so that if you set up users in your account, you want them to only log in through your VPN with this particular IP address or IP address range. And you can set up multiples of those. You have the ability to restrict those. We're about a week away from releasing two-factor authentication for all plan types, all paid plan types that are here. So you can turn that on and require that. And when you require that, you can require it for everybody in your account, or you could pick particular groups of users, like just admins or admins and general users, or everybody, including guests that's in there. We've quite a number of people have moved from Airtable to SmartSuite and have asked for an easier way to be able to move things over. And we're about a week and a half away from releasing the ability to just select your Airtable tables and then have the content structures, views, everything move over into SmartSuite as well. On the dashboard side, there are lots and lots of updates that are coming, but we'll be releasing very soon dashboard widgets for calendar, Gantt, card, timeline, and map, along with some new filtering capabilities and some tab things and some banner types. And just a lot of fun stuff that's being worked on in this area that's going to make it very easy for you to display things more in a page format that includes multiple items on the page. I want to see a grid, a card, and a Kanban, along with the banner widget saying, "Welcome, John," when you come into that. So lots of work happening in this particular area. We continue to move down the path for resource planning, scheduling, and time management with timesheets, scheduling views, all these different pieces. We just showed you quite a number of things that we released in this version that supports all of this, but it's getting to the point where you'll be able to then manage resources across your entire workspace inside of any project that you're on. And then we're doing the second part, the sub-items, where sub-items are being converted to actual linked records, which gives you the power to use everything in automations and formulas, notifications, all of those types of things. And I just wanted to quickly mention this to people. It's a pretty common request. What we have already built with the ability to come in and add a table here and now go in and say, I want to hide a table from display. When I move, that is a sub item now. And what that means is I can only get to that particular element in the context of a record that I'm looking at, which is what a sub item is meant to do. And so that is already available for you to create sub items to take full advantage of calculations, automations, everything that's available, page layouts that's there. What's happening in phase 2 is if you have current sub items, they will be converted to linked records and give you this capability out of the box so that when you add a sub item, it will automatically know, I want to hide that particular item from display that's here and have it only accessed in the context of the record. But what's nice, if you need to get to that data in whole, I could come back in here and turn that back on. And now I have full view of all of the data, print, export, grouping, whatever that might be, if needed, that's there. Pretty powerful. All right, Rick, I feel like I've been talking and not seeing any faces for 30 minutes here. Is there some questions you'd like to run through?
Absolutely. Do you need a chance to take a breath? Maybe grab some
Yeah, I'll take a drink of coffee here real quick.
action packed. Very impressive. First off, yeah, keep those reactions coming just for John's incredible ability to relay everything that's happening here. I think there's a lot of applause and appreciation for you here, John. I know that you are so passionate about what we're building and listening to customers and partners and driving all that into the product. So it shows. Questions, we have 35 here. We will likely go past the top of the hour. And yes, I'll say again, everybody will have the ability to receive this afterwards. So you'll receive the recording, as well as there'll probably be a few sort of resources that will come along with that for you to engage in some of this. I'm going to go rapid fire through these to see how much we can cover. We might not get to all of them. We have 36 now. Feel free, John, for kind of a short answer, and just know that we can expand on some of these for folks if you need more clarity.
Sure.
Okay. All right. I'll just start at the top. Jonathan started us off with a question about dark mode, which was one on my mind, but I realize it's a big undertaking. Any commentary there?
So we have dark mode on mobile that's available now that's there. And I did forget to mention that we had some pretty significant updates on mobile that's there. So you're going to see user interface enhancements that went out last week were quiet as we were just doing a lot more testing when things went live. But you're going to see increased performance on mobile that's pretty dramatic as well. Just the use of mobile is there. Adding dark mode on the web app is not a small feature. We have so many features and so many modals and menus and things. It's a lot to get through. It's something that we are considering, but it's not on the short-term roadmap.
Yeah. On the mobile note, I've had several of y'all text me in regards to the zippiness with this latest release of SmartSuite. So yeah, huge performance increases there. Joseph Troop, how can we get involved in the test groups? Yeah, so the focus groups that we have, we'd be happy to participate.
Yep. So you, in the bottom right of your screen in SmartSuite, you can click to interact with our onboarding and customer success teams, and just let them know that you have an interest in what area that you're in, and then they funnel that to me. If you have a relationship with somebody on our team directly, feel free to reach out to anybody on the team, sales, onboarding, whatever, let them know. We host calls weekly on different topics, things that are both in beta, and we're just looking for feedback on what you like, don't like from the beta perspective, all the way to these are new features that we're considering for the first time. We're taking input, showing initial designs, getting lots of feedback over 2 or 3 iterations before we actually finalize requirements that's there. So if you have an interest in a particular area, just let us know. We'll add you to the list, and then we will reach out to you when those topics pop up.
Awesome. A couple questions from Dave Zovak here. First, can you use formulas with the nested field elements?
You can, yes.
Yeah. And his other question is export to PDF and action available in automations?
Export, I think I know what you're saying, and no, not yet, but that is coming. I didn't mention that as the coming soon, but you'll have the ability very soon to use DocDesigner and PDF so that I want to generate a document using our DocDesigner capabilities, maybe send something to a customer in an automation, but also save it in the record. So that whole sequence is coming here very soon.
Mhm. Let's extend that. Landon has a question on, do you have any updates on Document Designer?
We do. We have 2 full-time resources that are focused just on DocDesigner for the next 4 weeks. So there's quite a number of enhancements. You can look in the customer feedback to see the list of things that we're working on. If there's something specific that you're waiting on for DocDesigner, please let our onboarding team know, and we'll make sure that it's on the list of the priority list that we're working on. I think we have everything covered. We've had so many conversations on this, but we'll triple check if you want to send us any notes.
Yeah, big enhancements coming there. That's an exciting one. A few questions from Marcus. Are social media fields now a nested field type, and are nested fields compatible with forms?
Some are. We continue to add some of the additional field types to forms. I'm not 100% sure on the linked record. Can Emma or someone on our team, can you just make a note that we can check that and get back to Marcus today with an answer?
Yeah, perfect. Marcus has another question here. If an email field is required to be unique, how does the system handle it when an existing email is entered into a form?
So I'm assuming that you have a form that's then going to be submitted in SmartSuite. So we're going to bring it in, but we're going to flag it for you. That's where the merge feature is meant to, the merge automation is meant to help. We can, on record save, we can automatically find that and perform the merge without any action needing to be taken by any user at that point.
Yeah, perfect. Question from Joseph Troop. Is there any possibility that we could duplicate an entire section, which would be quite useful when building out template sections?
Interesting. I don't think anybody's ever asked for that before. The answer is there's no reason why we couldn't. I tell you what, if you could add that in as a feature request and tag me in the note, I'll get an email and then we'll take a peek at that.
Perfect. Yeah. Joseph, that's feedback.smartsuite.com. Go ahead and drop it in there for us. Dave, I see a few of these in here trickled throughout. Any update on implementing webhook actions?
Yeah, so webhook actions are available through the API, and they're coming soon along with conditional actions and repeating groups for automations. Those are some bigger lift items that will be out this quarter for sure. We're going to try to get them out as fast as we can. That's there, but they all kind of work together and they're intermingled. But yeah, we're working on that now.
Landon has a question around, do the conditional section views update automatically as the trigger changes, or does it have to be saved and then go back into the record?
No, it happens in real time as updates are made on the page itself.
Yeah, very nice. Conditional sections, great option. Will it bring up any errors for a field in a hidden section that's a required field?
We bypass required fields in the logic if you're hiding a section. Hopefully that makes sense, but we override that, assuming that you don't want those fields to be displayed. So required only relates to the fields that are displayed to the user in the record.
Perfect. News to me, but makes total sense. Sal, is the field visibility in the record linked, or does it depend on the view you're working?
Can you ask that one more time, Rick? Make sure.
Is the field visibility in the record linked, or does it depend on the view you are working?
Are we talking folder visibility or field?
That's a good question. Sal, if you're still with us, Sal Coronado, feel free to add to that either in the chat or in the QA for some clarification.
Yeah, let me clarify one thing on folder visibility. So there's 2 types of visibility. The first part's been implemented, which is the folder type. The second type of visibility that's coming is view visibility. So if you don't have views, or if you have views that are just in a public folder, you can still control who can actually access and see that particular view. If you have folders set up and I limit that to the executive team, and I have a view inside of that folder listing that is public, no one's going to see it. So the folder wins first based on, does the folder even display that shows the information? And then the second piece is on the views. In regards to, if you're asking about field permissions, when you set a field permission in SmartSuite, whether it's view or edit, that information, let's say that you hide it where a user can't even see a particular field, that field falls away in every view, every modal drop down where that information would be displayed. They won't even know that field is there. The most common is something like compensation for HR. and only a certain group of people can see it, and it falls away. Charts, graphs, grids, everywhere else, users don't know it's there. Search, PowerSearch, all of those places.
Very good. Rob has a question here around time tracking. Show an entry of a task performed for a certain time. Yeah, so Rob, just answer that shortly. So when you're in the time tracking field, you have the ability to drop a note on there, and that note would show as part of the log of one of those time tracking entries.
Yeah.
Extractability of that in the future, John, maybe you could speak to that, how we might be using that note.
Yeah, I didn't mention this in when I showed the formula as well that you can use, but you can actually pull data out using formulas from that notes field as well. And I could say I don't want to see anything that's not billable or has the words not billable in the description that's there. So you can get very specific with just billable, non-billable time. In the future, things that we're working on right now is the ability to pull up a person from their user profile and see the time that they've actually reported across any project, anywhere that they've reported time using the time tracking log. And it's the first step towards timesheets. So not only will we allow you to see the time you've tracked by time period, but you could go in and enter time, like administrative time, other time, to actually complete a timesheet for some period, and then have that go through your normal cycle of approvals. And then it becomes locked, where now we have a record of time reported by person.
Mm-hmm. Just want to retrace back because I'd be remiss if I didn't mention webhooks are available in buttons. I don't know if anybody's using the button field, but we have customers that are creating webhooks using the dynamic URL formula that's contained within a button. So that's an often overlooked capability, but really powerful. We've seen customers do things like create a webhook out of that to take a file within a record and upload it to Google Drive without needing to use an integration engine. So tapping into that, there's a lot of capability there. But again, webhooks I know have been a common theme here and on the way. Marcel has a question here around conditional ability at the field level. Is that slated, or is it just going to remain at the section level?
We allow you to do that right now through field permissions, where you can hide and show fields or determine if they're editable, not editable. But if you're asking for just visibility on a form, we don't have current plans for that. Now I think I understand why you're asking. We just have that available to hide and show fields on the form or to put things in sections.
Yeah.
Not that we couldn't do it, but it's not on the short-term plan. So yeah, if it's something that you feel that you need, let's get that in the feedback roadmap as well.
Yeah. I think it's specifically the logic, and Patrick just mentioned the same in the chat, the logic availability for forms instead of just in sections. So the ability to use logic to dictate what someone can see, not just based on the role type. I want to call out in the chat here that Tara dropped in a link to our latest formulas and functions. So we give you a pretty solid resource that you're able to copy into your workspace. It's a guide to help you understanding application of our formulas and functions as you're learning how to put those to use. I'll call out here because I think it's very cool. I had a chat with Richard. He may or may not be still here this week. I had a chat with him around the usability of that. He basically took that, giving him 100% credit for this idea. He dropped it into ChatGPT and he used it to help him write formulas as he's just getting acquainted with SmartSuite's formulas. So he's taken that as a resource, exported it into a file, dropped it in ChatGPT and said, can you please write me a formula that can do ABC? My jaw dropped a little bit. It makes so much sense. We do our best to keep these things documented and just know that we'll use that as a way to better understand how to use our formulas. Okay.
Yeah. Let me just add one thing to what Rick just said. So what he's talking about is we've actually created a solution that has every operator that's available in formulas with examples of how to use them. And you can go into templates, search on formulas, and you can download that. And we use that in a lot of our training that we have, but we're finding that it's pretty valuable for people just to see in general. We also have all the same information in our help articles, but it's really great just to have it all at your fingertips as a solution when you're learning and trying to figure out how to do things. So.
For sure. Yeah, I just dropped it in again there. Yeah, make sure you bookmark that, y'all. Let's see, what else do we have here? Adrian has a question around unique record is wonder, which we need. Can you add a filter for yearly records? Meaning someone can't fill out our form, but yearly in the same solution. Someone can't fill out our form. Not positive exactly what you mean by that, Adrian. If you want to, I think you're still with us. If you could just drop a little line in the chat and we'll come back to this one.
Yeah, and Adrian, I think feel free to reach out to me directly as well on that.
All right, perfect. Where can I track version number? This is from an anonymous. Where can I track the version number?
You could add a field type that's version numbers, and a lot of people do that. And you can have multiple records that are there. There's a lot of ways to track versions. You also have the ability in activity history to track the history of every change made over a period of time by every user. So it shows the user date, time, and the actual changes, if it was an add, delete, or update that's there. We don't have the ability currently for you to revert back to a prior record version, but that will be coming. All the data is tracked, that if you needed to say, show me what it is, what people do now, if you're at an organization and you need to see the information, is we just allow you to pull that activity history for that particular period of time. Now, we do have a new widget type that is coming out here within about probably 5 weeks. That is an activity widget that allows you on any dashboard to throw in a live feed of any changes that are being made across not any number of tables. So if I'm in a CRM and I want to see new customers that have came in for the first time, and maybe also want to see expansions that have happened in customers, you can set filters and see that feed that will just scroll in real time to show you those updates.
Mhm. Love it. Genesis Brown with a question here. Genesis, nice to see you. Chat features like with Intercom with our team members. Is that a feature that perhaps is in the work? So the ability to have a chat, like a general chat within SmartSuite, not specific to the communication center.
Yeah, we've got some concepts we're working on right now, which are almost, it's chat, but it's discussion forums that provides the same thing. So you could set up multiple forms. They can be added to what we're calling dashboards or pages right now. So it's just a view that's there. You can control who can actually be involved in those discussions. So it could be just you and 4 other people on a particular project, or you could open it up to everyone, and you can set channels, what we call categories. So I could have 8 different categories of discussions that are available that's there. What is coming longer term is the ability for that to all happen as part of your homepage. When a user logs in, you'll have features with things like that, where you don't want to have discussions just in the context of a record. You want to just have some general discussions about things.
Very nice. Nick Jansen's asking about ETA on formatting formula fields.
I'm assuming that he's talking about text, number, date, those types of things where you can absolutely control it, versus right now we help do some things in the background to control it. I don't have a date that I can just tell you right now. I need to talk with Artem on the project side. Emma, can you just make a note of that for us? We can get back to him. It'd probably be tomorrow before I could have that discussion with development.
Patrick's asking about with the undo feature, what's the length of time that they still able to do an undo?
We track back so many undos in your current session. So if you leave your current session, that capability goes away. So just understand that. And Patrick, I need to look back in the documentation to tell you how many actions back we actually track in your current session. It's something like that, but I can't remember the exact number. We need to pull that to let you know. If somebody on the team is here and know that, please throw that back in the chat.
Yeah, his extension of that question goes, if someone bulk updated a status to be completed through an automation and that condition triggered an automation, but they pressed the undo option, would those automations still be triggered, or is there a delay to account for the undo potential?
I need a minute to think through that sequence, so let me do that after, so I don't waste time here.
Okay. Y'all are a very curious bunch. It's 11:05 Central Time here. John, what do we want to go towards? We have 48 open questions now. We've answered about 20.
Okay, yeah, let's do maybe another 10 if you want to.
Okay, all right, rapid fire. Here we go. Barry said, come on, let's go. All right. Carlos has a question. How soon until we can choose to have our environment hosted on Amazon.gov?
The first piece that you'll see from us is we're in this quarter, we are making available an EU data center. It will be the last part of June, early part of July. That will be live. Then we move into the government sector, like you're asking here. So that's a Q3, probably middle to end Q3. It's not going to be at the beginning. Yeah.
Thanks, Carlos. Carlos Cuevas, how are you? Any plans to display dashboards in mobile apps?
Yes. Yeah, we're working. There's a lot that makes all of that work, but we're working through that now. So you'll be able to see charts, graphs, everything that you on a dashboard on web. You'll be able to see a version of that on mobile.
Chris Peak is asking, is it possible to create, for example, a new project based on a template? It's a pretty common one we get.
Yeah, so there's ways to do that right now. that's there. So you can create solutions that are templates that show on your homepage that only, and you can control who can see that. And then you can go into that template and say duplicate. And I use that all the time, that's there. We're going to make that even more accessible. Same functionality that I just said, but we'll have the word template. So you'll have a template library and people will be able to pull from that. We also have customers with, well, we're adding features on the homepage for you to group solutions together. And people are using groupings called templates to do just that as well. So I could throw them all there. They're always available. You can see it. But do know that all that capability is available now. We just don't call it a template, but you can duplicate. You can set up as many solutions as you want, give them any name that you want, and you can duplicate those at any time if you have permissions.
Froden Island is asking, when will the pivot widget be launched, and will it be available on all plan types?
I don't know the answer to that second question. I need to look into some details today, but I can, if it's available for all plan types, it's probably all paid, but I just need to validate that. The dev that's working on that needed to finish something else up over the last week, or we would have been really close with pivot table. They start on that probably within 3 or 4 days to finish the pivot table stuff. So I would say within 4 weeks, pivot tables will be available for everyone.
Excellent. Richard Matthews is asking, on automations, can we access data inside of a linked record?
Yes, we can.
An anonymous attendee says, can we reverse merge records if we want to?
Yes, you can get back to the original record if you want, because when the records are merged and deleted, the deleted records go in the recycle bin for just that reason. So I could restore that version of the deleted record if you needed to.
TC Optimize is asking on the merge topic, does merge need to be the last step in the automation each time?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't matter the order.
Loaded question, fair one. Anonymous attendee, what's the major reason why folks are moving from Airtable to SmartSuite?
Yeah, I don't know that that's a short answer, and anonymous usually means that it's Airtable asking that question on these calls. So if you want to reach out to me direct, I'm happy to run through that with you.
Another anonymous attendee, is it possible to create a PDF template with my logo and other information for the new PDF export capabilities? I don't know if they're referring to PDFing a dashboard or PDFing through Document Designer, but maybe you can speak to both.
Yeah, and that Document Designer does exactly that. So you control the formatting, the elements that you want displayed. You can add header, footer, like images, those types of things. That's what it's meant for, that's there. We don't currently allow you to control the header and footer for a normal PDF version, but it's something that we're looking at adding in workspace settings where you would set that for your organization. And then we would just pick up that heading that could include your logo. That's not on the short-term roadmap, but if it's something that enough people need right now, it's not a big lift. We could find a way to fit that in.
Landon, I like this question here. Is it possible in the future to have a dynamic dashboard that would be unique to certain records? For example, if I have a product, can I see all sales stats just based on the linked records, such as sales orders, sort of Power BI style?
Yes, it's actually in development right now. So we have a filter widget type that does exactly that. So it allows you to link multiple charts or views together. And when I would go in and say, I want to look at just Rick from a sales perspective, anything down below would be filtered based on that information that you're looking at. And you can have as many of those filters that can be set there with ands in between them as well. So I could have 5 of those where I could say, this quarter sales closed one this size company, and everything would filter down below based on just that. Mm-hmm. Or not just below, anywhere on the page that the filters use.
That's right. Landon, side comment in the chat, is there anything you guys aren't working on? Fantastic news. Very little, at least the things that matter and that y'all have been vocal about, we are working on, Landon. I appreciate that you appreciate it. Osvaldo's asking, okay, just to recap on this. So question on Page Designer, and are we working on improvements there? The answer is yes. You'll start to see some of these reflected within a few weeks in the product, John, within the next sort of 3 to 4 weeks, if not sooner.
Yeah, we're rolling smaller things out as they're done every Tuesday and Thursday of each week, and then we'll be making some announcements on that. So the first part was just fixing some things with images that allowed you to do a little more interesting things, and things with dynamic linked records and sizing of pages to get the formatting a little more like dialed in for you that's there. Artem will be making some announcements, it'll probably be on Tuesday of next week for kind of the first round of things that came out.
Another one here from Landon. Can you speak to the roadmap of AI being able to be used to query data stored in SmartSuite?
Yeah, so we have initial versions of AI that does just that and pulls information together. You're going to see towards the end of this quarter a heavier focus on AI from us as a company that's there. It's been nice to be able to build some initial features that people are really taking advantage of, like in Smart Docs to create content, review content, do those types of things. But it's been nice to watch the industry evolve so quickly on all the different types of use cases and ways that we can attach or have integrations with other AI products that do some of that heavy lifting for you now. So that's the piece that you're going to see us get really focused on the end of this quarter. You'll be able to use AI in automations when you're using doing linked records to create calculations. Just a lot of different things are coming at the same time there.
Is asking here, and I'm happy to speak to this. Any idea on external users at a reduced cost? For example, companies have 100 plus clients that they want to bring in and have some additional capabilities beyond guest that they could stay in SmartSuite and not have to go pay for an additional portal to be set up. So the short of that is yes. We introduced at the beginning of this year a signature plan type. Think of this as a customized plan type. Gives you the ability to have a conversation with us around your specific needs, whereas all of the other inclusions on the plan types from free, team, and professional and enterprise are hard-coded, meaning you all have what you've opted for, whereas signature is an open conversation. Yeah. Anything to add to that, John?
That's exactly it. That's what signature plan is all about. If we can handle special use cases that you might have.
Mary Davies asking here, any updates on the homepage and or my work developments? Two very different questions.
Yep. My work we'd hope to have, or excuse me, the homepage updates we'd hope to have rolled out by today. A lot of the other little features that were more requested kept popping in. So that one's got pushed just a little bit that's there. And then we are actively working on a number of things around my work that's going to allow you to do two main things. The first one is display my work in a calendar view, in addition to just the grid row view that we have now. And then you'll be able to see my work of other users if you have permissions to that. So if I wanted to go and see Rick, or I wanted to see the sales team, and everybody on the sales team with the work that's there, you'll be able to do that. That part is easy. What we're figuring out now is how to give you control to determine who can see what. Larger companies don't want this. Smaller companies want this available for everybody. They don't care that one person can see another person's work, but the larger the company, the not as much.
I see Carlos in the chat. Carlos Ruiz is asking for SmartSuite team or experts to do a bit of a roadshow to cities with a high concentration of customers. That is something I'm very passionate about, and I think we will be able to work on in coming weeks and months here, Carlos. Yeah, we'd love to see you in Seattle for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
Gotti is asking here around permission for licensed user assignee to view only, like a guest. Can you have a permission for a licensed user assignee to view only?
So they don't want them to edit records that they're assigned to. They can just view records they're assigned to. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's where we're headed with roles. We're going to give you the ability inside of your workspace administration for you to go create custom roles and give that role a name and set the attributes on what those users can do. Those roles will then show up inside of each solution in SmartSuite as a role, in addition to the role types we've given you today. And so that will solve the specific case that you're talking about here, where you want to do something different than what we've defined as a system role that's there. I don't have a date yet on that, but we have figured out the design and how it's going to work, which was the first big part of just making everything work. And if you have an interest, I'm happy to add you to the list, the discussion list here of people that want to provide input on that before we start the development, which will be soon. So if you have an interest, please let us know.
Mm-hmm. An interesting question from Sarah. Variable radius for maps for vendors who may have a 10-mile service area versus a 30-mile service area, for example.
So right now you can set a radius on a map and you select the radius. Like you could say it's 10 miles. We don't have the ability to do that by I don't know how we would make that dynamic, like how you would tell us how to make that dynamic. I need to think about that one for a bit. I understand what you're asking now.
On that sort of location or address topic there, Nick Jansen's asking about, will address fields eventually be able to validate intersections and not just physical addresses? Possibly PO boxes validated.
I don't know. We use Google for the validation. That's not something I've looked into. We need to, Pete, our CTO, Pete, maybe that's something we could take a peek at today or tomorrow just to understand if that's an option for us.
Back to map view, Kristen Blakeman with a question here. Any plans to make map view shareable or embeddable?
Yes, that was on the coming soon slide for the dashboard widgets. So you'll see that both as shareable outside of SmartSuite and then inside of a dashboard with other things that are there as well.
Nice. A landing question around, as teams grow and permissions get more granular, it'd be great to have a switch to view certain permissions in the roadmap. I think the ask here, Landon, is the ability to assume the view of another user with a certain permission role.
Yeah, we have designed this. It hasn't started development, but we've figured out with lots of discussions with partners and users, the best way to do that. So that is coming soon. You'll be able to go into a solution. If you're a solution manager and say, I want to view as, it will pop up the screen for that solution. You can pick the user or the role. So if I wanted to see the general user, what can they see through this whole solution? Or I could pick just Rick. And you can look at everything in the context of how Rick looks at things. You have full rights, but if you make any edits, it won't save as Rick when you're in that mode. It will show as the person that actually, the SM that made the edit, and then you click to go back to your normal state that's there. So this is pretty requested for SMs that are setting things up for large teams, and they want to make sure that they've got things really dialed in by role or person that's there.
Love it. We're running up on time. We still have 30 plus questions. We still have hundreds of people still here.
Rick, I'm good for about another 5, maybe 10 minutes. I'm happy to answer questions if people want to.
Yeah, I'll still try to rip through. Yeah, we can get through and then see if there's some themes. Gotti's asking about EU region availability. I think probably specifically you're talking about the AWS server.
Yeah, so that's on track for the end of this quarter. It would be like the last week in June or the first or second week in July that would be available. We're working out some of the finishing details on that.
Let's see. Danny Tice is asking for date format changes. Is there a day, month, year possible?
Not sure the question.
Is there a way to change date format to day, month, year, which I believe there is currently, correct?
Right now, its dates are based on the locale of the user that's viewing the information that's there. So we automatically change that. We are looking at a setting for date fields for you to pick the date and time that things will be displayed in if you don't want it to auto adjust for somebody that's there. I think that's probably what you're asking. But right now, everything is based on each user's locale. So we show them the format and the actual time setting in their locale.
Benjamin's asking about a future where we could see the version history in the property instead of only in the record. I think it's talking about broadly like activity history tracking beyond just at the record view.
It is, yes. That's what I mentioned earlier. There'll be a widget type that's called activity stream, and that does just that. So you can set that widget up to pull from one or more tables. You pick the tables you want to pull from. The tables don't have to be just in the solution that you're in if you have rights. And then you can pick the types of activities that you want to stream through. So you could say, I only want to see new ads, or you could say, I want to see updates, or I want to see deletes. And you can also, you have filters for things like user and time frame that you could pick. So I could say, I want to see everything that Rick did in the last 30 days that was an ad in this piece. So it pulls from everything.
Totally. Question around geo tracking for time tracking.
That is not something that we have considered to date. Hearing you say that though, it's probably not, we know the geo of the person that's logged in at the time and the IP address. We know some of that, so we could probably attach that to the time tracking log history if needed. But if you have, I tell you, the person that's asking this question, can you just reach out to the support team and maybe we have a quick discussion on the use case that you've got for that?
Perfect. Question around finding out SmartSuite's latest version. The short of that is you're on the latest version. If there are features that you don't have access to, it would either be based on your plan type, or we do have alpha beta features that we do light releases. And we usually try to communicate that with folks, at least on these sessions. So know that you are on SmartSuite's latest version.
Yeah, you're always on the latest one. If you're asking for just staying up to date on what's there, there's a what's new page on the website, and we have links to that in the product in multiple places and in the help articles that gives you the running history of everything by date that's been released with links back to help articles and how to use them.
A lot of questions here just around kind of the future of AI and capabilities that we may be introducing in the future. And anything further you want to share with that, John?
Yeah, so you're going to see a lot of new use cases to use AI in the context of automations and in the context of field types as you're working on a field, so that if you want to have a field type that's set up that's like an AI field type that looks at the content that's been entered in SmartDoc and other field types and tells you the tone of the conversation that's there and automatically picks that tone, you'll be able to see things like that happening through automations as well as individual field types that you've set up to include a portion of AI, meaning that the user doesn't input the value, AI determines the value based on some parameters that you've set for it.
Excellent. I think that answers quite a few of these. Let's see if maybe there's one or two last ones. Yeah, Vaskin, fair question. ETA on tracking the usage of all limits within the platform, like within the workspace, like automations and API calls and whatnot.
Yep, we're weeks away from releasing 2 places that you'll see that. So you'll be able to have a usage tab that's inside of Workspace Administration. So if you're an administrator and have access to that, you'll be able to see where you're at from limits and a history of where you've been overall with API, automations, number of records, number of solutions and tables and file storage. That's all there, just very simple. And then you'll have inside of automations for a particular solution. We will also tell you about that solution, and then we'll tell you overall. So if you're not an admin and you don't know that you have a limit of X automations, we'll at least tell you this is where you're at with your plan overall currently.
Cheeky one from Gary McCourt. Any plans for an Australian server? Gary, once we can rationalize it with the business, don't see why not in the future. So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, we could go on and on. We're up to 30 questions again as these keep stacking. I think probably a reasonable time to break. I'd love to keep going through these. Some of them are quite granular and specific. If we have not answered your question, please feel free to be in touch, but we'll also collect all these. We've answered almost 60 questions, John. That as incredible as your run through of the features is your ability to articulate and understand what people are asking for.
Yeah, perfect. And I tell you what, let's keep a list of these questions. We'll make sure we get back to everybody today or tomorrow with answers that you've got here as well. I just want to say, I know it's late. Seems like these always go longer than we anticipate that's here, and questions are even longer than the presentation, but we appreciate the feedback. We appreciate all the feedback and voting and commenting that you add with our public roadmap. That's what leads to all the features, like the 37 that we talked today, are all on that roadmap and requests. So please keep doing that. And that's where we also look to see who might be interested in having a discussion about a particular topic. So if it's something you're interested in, make sure you go into the feedback.smartsuite and vote on things. And that tells us you have an interest. Then every time we make an update to something, you're auto notified as well on that particular feature. So if it moves into production or if it's complete, you're auto notified if you voted or commented on any of the features.
Amazing. Thank you all for tuning in. Yeah, I'll be curious after the fact to see how many countries are represented here. Hundreds of you joining in and excited about the future of SmartSuite. Thank you, as John said, for the feedback, for the engagement here. We are what we are because of you all. So enjoy the rest of your days and take care.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.